the YouTube interface on the PC because, annoyingly, as I said before, that doesn't work as well on the mobile thing. If I can get that just about there, there we go, then that's not glaring into the thing. I've got two sources of light. I'll also go to a white screen in a moment as well. Like that. But I need to get the YouTube settings correct first, so minimize electric on. Right. Oh, I need to do pop-out chat. Then I can go to this thing, have the pop-out chat on there. And it should let me, what do you call it? So I can probably move my light to about here, and then that might light me even better. Yeah, that's quite useful, because I can stick that on the new thing. How good is the difference between that being on and off? So, I want to go back to the mode I was on. That was that. So without that, it's like that. With that, yeah, that's a lot better. So I'll just stick that. Ooh, I forgot this is magnetic. It's stuck to something. There we go. So stick that there. Greyman, didn't you see the video earlier? I launched to fix this mask. I did a DIY Frankenstein thing, where this is now two masks being combined together. Easily this mask, because by default this didn't work at all where the GSR works. It's just some of the models had bad build quality. Alright, Connor? Right, so yeah, let me just go properly into the chat and get that up on this screen. So there we go. So I'll test this in a minute using the actual stuff I got, just make sure it's seated properly. So, seems to pressurize. And I want this light so it's lighting me but doesn't come into the frame and flare the frame out. I think it's working. Yeah. I can't smell that ammonia. So yeah, this mask now officially works. Using two broken masks to making one functional mask. Yeah, the really strong smelling salts. Basically just ammonia gas. What's my favourite hat? What, like practical hat? Probably like a bunt cap sort of hat. You know, the ones that give you a bit of head protection but look just like a cap. Yeah, well, getting two of these awful masks, like I said, where each one had its own separate problem and cannibalizing them for parts. If you watch the video, like I was saying, you can see what I did in the video. Yeah, that does not sound fun at all. Right, like I said, but that's actually working now, this mask. I'm being completely... I do actually have a bump cap in here. So yeah, I like these, because especially Greyman, like I was saying, these are kind of like little Greyman helmets. If you want to see like these, because like I said, the cool thing with these caps is that they're they look for the most part like regular caps, but obviously the difference is with these that it's not really hard, but you know, if I do that, like obviously they're quite good at protecting your head. Obviously it would sit better on my head normally without a gas mask on top, but yeah, these are actually pretty good because like I said, they're essentially a cap with a hard plastic liner in them. Yeah, like I said in the video, I've stolen bits. So basically, I'll take this off and show you what I did. So how it worked is this metal band here, and if I take the filter off, that whole assembly there is from the pewter. The rest of this mask, and the oral nasal cup's from the pewter as well, because the oral nasal cup in the pewter was attached to the oral nasal cup, and all this bit on the pewter was attached. The other bit, like the straps and this face piece, is from the other mask, the one that came with my PAPR. And while the PAPR was good, like I said, this mask is absolute bullshit. So what I did was basically attach the bit from the pewter's like valve assembly bit, if you like, to this mask, because the face pieces were so similar in size that they almost might be the same face piece, basically, that it, you know, almost fit completely without me having to do anything. You know, like you both had to stretch the mask rubber, and they're kind of the same sort of oval shape, you know, like teardrop sort of shape, pork chop shape, whatever you want to call this thing, you know, that sort of shape like that. That, you know, they fit in regardless. So, and then I just stretched that band back over there. I think that was a bit tighter when it was originally on the other thing, but that was as tight as I could get it. You know, like I was saying, if you wanted to seriously use this, you'd get a bit of rubber glue as well and put it around there to make sure that stays airtight. But yeah, otherwise this mask isn't too bad now. You know, it's just essentially an MF14 now. But yeah, from two shit masks that didn't work because each had different problems, took all the working parts from each one and made one working mask. As opposed, you know, so I could in theory reassemble the pewter and make it even worse now, because I could add the broken like diaphragm sort of screw system from the other one. But there's no point, you know, because like I said, the pewter is an absolute dog shit mask. But yeah, there we go. This is actually a working mask now. Yeah, cheers. But like I said, it wasn't very difficult. It was a case in the video, like I said, of just dismantling the major parts from each one. But again, it's a bit like if you had a car and you had almost two models of the same car, and one had a working engine but like a completely crashed apart body kit, and the other one was a mostly intact body kit but the engine was just bust. It's just like swapping the engine over kind of thing. It's not really that difficult, you know. It's just a case of they were close enough together that, you know, the bits work together. Whereas with some masks, you obviously couldn't do that, because you couldn't fit this bit to an S10, for example, unless you cut the rubber apart and then glued it together that way, which would be an awful idea. I don't see why anyone would do that. But yeah. So, like I said, that's that working now. So yeah, like I said, bump caps are oh, the chat's already broken on my phone. So that took YouTube 6 minutes or so for the chat to break on this stream, which is really annoying, because like I said, if I was streaming and not with the PC, that would be the end of this stream now, basically. I wouldn't know it necessarily straight away, but I'd think nobody was commenting anymore. And all right, Connor, if I didn't say hello, not sure if I did or not. Because, yeah, like I said, there's that really annoying thing where, despite the fact YouTube promotes so much stuff for the mobile thing now, their interface is still really broken with the phone stuff. Because, like I said, you can't change some of the settings on phone. The chat often just freezes, and you can't, there's no way of opening and closing the stream without ending the stream. I've never actually fully disassembled an FM12. Let's have a look. Is my one handy behind me somewhere? If my one's handy, I can have a quick look. I'm not going to dismantle mine now, but I can actually have a look and see. Probably not got it handy. Because, you know, in theory it's behind me somewhere, but it's not behind me easily, sort of behind me, if that makes sense. But if we have a look at the knockoff S10, I know this isn't the same mask, but I'd assume with a mask like this, there'd be a way of actually maybe prizing the eyepieces off. But again, you don't want to do that. Just soak it in soapy water and, you know, clean both sides of it. Because, like I said, those are the sort of things where if you don't do it right, you could wreck your mask, even if you're just doing it for cleaning it. You don't really need to. I am interested with my full feeder. You're right, Roger.
at like seeing if I can get that diaphragm cover thing off at some point, because I do want to see if that Forshida, if I can actually you know, like see what's underneath that mask in terms of diaphragm type assembly stuff. Oh, and the rubber glue. The rubber glue finally came for this mask as well today, so on Monday I'll probably get a video done of re-gluing on this bit, like I said, because this mask has that kind of dodgy bit here, yeah, where what I want to do is just dip this probably in some rubber glue, then tighten it back up, so that actually makes a proper seal. Because like I said, it's got that weird design where it sort of pushes in and then tightens, but you know, and why that's gone airtight again, I don't like the idea that you can just have something where a filter screws it in and unscrews it. Also, somebody in the factory put some felt tip on that bit. I don't know why. It's a bit weird. But yeah, so put that back on, my glasses back on. Favourite gas mask bag, right, annoyingly I've never been able to get another one of these, but with the Czech M10, there's a version I had of that, the first one I got of those, that had a really, really nice sort of vinyl covered bag. So it was like the fabric bag that, you know, was then kind of coated in like really nice green vinyl. And I've still got that bag and everything, but every M10 bag I've looked at online, or, you know, like either buying the bag separately or if I get another M10 gas mask, they don't come with those same satchels. They come with one where the buttons and everything are in the same place, but they're just like tarp type material, you know, they're like really cheap and nasty bags. So that's really annoying. Because like I'm saying, the actual one that I got as the first one, I'd like to buy more of those bags just as like a general purpose bag, because like they're quite roomy inside, you know, and they're really good material. We've got a weirdo Colin on, so I'll get rid of him. I don't know what you mean by that, but yeah, goodbye. But yeah, so annoyingly, yeah, like I was saying, those M10M bags, like I said, so it must have been they probably weren't the mass-produced ones the Czech government did, or like whichever company made them, you know. But like I said, there was one variant of them that was a really, really high-quality satchel, but just annoyingly, I've never even found those satchels for sale separately, you know, or with other M10s, you know, if you just wanted to buy extra M10s just for the bags. It's just for whatever reason, the version when I first bought the M10, M10M, it came in that bag. Let me look them up. Was this a site that was mentioned the other day? It was, wasn't it? But yeah, let me search satchel or bag or whatever. But like I said, I've never seen them at all again since then. Doesn't matter where I've looked, that sort of thing. Like I said, I found the other Czech bags. No, they only have the S10 bag on here. I'll just search bag rather than satchel, but because there's like a nice Polish Army canvas bag, and it's a similar sort of bag to that, but again, it's not canvas, this one, it's an actual like vinyl, like I said, it's like a vinyl coated thing. I'll search high to low, because I imagine they'd be expensive, they had them. Not like expensive, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think they'd be less money, these ones, if they did have them, than the, you know, generic sort of cheap gas mask bags. So again, they have S10 bags and S6 bags for £6 on this site, which again, like you're saying, is a really good price for them, for those. But I'll go back to the chat in a second. And like I said, the chat isn't even working on the phone bit anymore. Swiss Alpenflage bag, I've got one of those. Those are really weird though, because they only have one actual strap on them, the Alpenflage bags, because they're designed to connect to the Alpenflage jacket. So they're really, really weird like that. It's, you know, The Dutch DPM carry-alls look pretty good. They're like just big, kind of like almost like hand luggage bags, but in DPM. But no, I'm into like the 30 quid bags now, and there's definitely no none of those gas mask bags on there. Although saying that, they've got a Swedish gas mask bag for 40 quid that seems quite expensive for just a gas mask bag, considering a lot of their other prices are so low. But no, I don't think they've got them. But like I said, I've never ever seen those bags for sale anywhere other than when I physically bought the mask with it. Is what green like my top? Oh, the cap. Yeah, the cap is just a slightly different shade of green. Yeah, this is a bump helmet, because we were on about things earlier. So I was saying that the nice thing with bump helmets is that obviously where's my Warhammer that I had over the other day? It should be down here, but now I typically can't see it again. Oh, there it is. Right. So no, that's a mate, so I don't want to do it with a spike just in case that goes through. So yeah, the nice thing. So a bump helmet is basically you can still feel some of the vibration through that. Yeah, so you can see why Warhammers are good military weapons, because you could, even with a protective hat on like this, you could still kill somebody through blunt force trauma with a Warhammer. But yeah, like I said, bump caps are good because there's stuff that would otherwise injure you. They'd give you a good protection from. But like I said, that I can actually feel quite well, where as in not good. Whereas a lighter bit of metal does just bounce off of the bump cap. The other thing you have to be careful with this particular model of bump caps, there might be other bump caps that are better, is there's actually little gaps in the plastic, which I guess are meant to be like vent holes, but if something hit you in just the wrong angle, it would still crack your skull. Aren't they just called like knee pads or whatever, Rajiv? Isn't that just called like a knee pad or like shin guard sort of things? Yeah, I bought a nice table to go part way down this room for my aircon unit and some other stuff. So it's actually at a height I can use a drainage hose on it, because otherwise that aircon unit is useless, because it's got wheels to sit on the floor, but you actually need it elevated to drain it properly. So that was a design flaw when they designed the aircon unit. I think this is why a lot of them have the like drainage things now halfway up the unit, not right at the bottom, so gravity does assist water flowing out of it. But anyway, that table there, even though I've got it in a place there should be enough space to easily walk past it, I still manage to sometimes bang my fucking knees or shins on that, even though I know it's there. I've placed it in the room in a place where there should be a wide enough gap I can just walk past it. Yeah. And even then, I still manage to, like I was saying, yeah, I definitely don't want to do that with this one, because like I said, this, you feel the impact through it, because even though this has got the, like I said, like the plastic inner bit that's designed to protect your head from bumps, that would, I think, yeah, definitely hard enough with a Warhammer would do the same job they did in medieval times and crack right through your helmet. Hooligan, what? Because I'm doing it to myself. Again, this end I definitely wouldn't want to test with the thing. That's a Warhammer. Yeah, that ain't a hammer. This is a hammer. You call it a hammer? This is a hammer. It's hammer time. But yeah, bump caps are really good. Which is White Island? What is that, like one of the Anthrax Islands or a similar thing? If so, I'd want a full like PAPR system type thing, not even just a regular gas mask if I was going somewhere really. So, oh yeah, because this is old as well, the actual little foam liner bits come off as well, because that was glued on to start with, but this hat is so old now. Yeah, like I said, these are nice things, these bump helmets. It's just obviously this particular one is a bit what do you call it, like basic, even though again this is still better than a regular baseball cap, Because the reason I bought this is I got quite a nasty head injury years ago. The bump caps, let's have a look on Amazon and eBay. They're not very much what they are. Because I think a bit like bike helmets, these are technically rated as how, like things that once it has a bad impact, you're not meant to use them anymore, like a bike helmet, because, then some of the safety, it's like a very hard plastic, Rajiv. Let me have a look on like Amazon, but like, yeah, bump caps, a few companies make them, like I think Scott makes this, the same company that does gas masks. But yeah, like I said, what ended up happening, I was out for a walk and there was like a farmer cutting, the trees back along a hedgerow, which I was walking perpendicular from. So, not close enough that I was going to get mangled by like, the big tree cutting machine thing that they had on the tractor. But what ended up happening was like a really big chunk of bark got thrown out by like the grinder thing at really high velocity and hit me in the side of the head and nearly knocked me out, like where it properly, made me dizzy, really, really hurt. I think it cut my head a bit and I was bleeding kind of thing. And yeah, that's why I ended up getting the bump cap, because I thought I do not want to be around like stuff like that, or if you're by a road, where like little rocks get thrown up by all the passing cars that you have to walk along, and not be able to have something like this, because again, that's what these are kind of designed. The main reason they're called bump caps is I think they're designed for people working under low ceilings or like cupboards. So every time they stand up, they don't, like bang their head. But let's have a look for bump caps, because I'm sure there's better models than this one now. So bump caps. Yeah, on Amazon, there's absolutely loads, Rajiv. Port West ones, Air Pro. Again, some of them look better than others, because what I'd be interested in is seeing one where, like I was saying, you get an all-around kind of design, not like this design. Because again, some of the ones I can see on Amazon have the same design where, it's got like the mesh you can see through, which I wouldn't want one like that if I was to buy another one. I'd want one, even if it looks a bit goofy, the shape of it, to have one that is, more roundish as a cap, but all of it that is the cap bit be hard plastic, like a bike helmet underneath kind of thing. Because the problem, like I said, with this one is if you're really unlucky, something might still get it at the angle, and go through it. Like I said, they're only really designed for, I think, mostly bumping your head on low ceilings and stuff like that. But, like I was saying, if you're getting something like this, you might as well get one that's a bit bulkier and then would protect you from multiple angles. Because, like I said, the side on this one, if it's too low, it's not protected. If it's just there, it's not protected. But this bit is. So, like I said, that's the kind of thing with this. I'd worry that if you were using it for a particular thing, it wouldn't be quite the right angle. So I'm just having a look on some on Amazon now to see if they show the underneath, but the problem is a lot of these don't show the underneath. This one's got a video of them taking the PW79, taking the liner out. What does the liner look like on this one? This one looks more like a solid liner. It says it's ventilated, but how big are the vent holes? Again, they don't actually take the liner fully out. I want to see what the liner looks like on the bloody inside. Now, yeah, this Port West one here is more like Port West PW59 in blue. That is definitely, I'll just link to Amazon now. I'll need to cut the URL down. But this is a lot more like the sort of thing I was thinking of. Because, like I was going to recommend. Because, here we go. So if I get the thing back up. Okay, I still don't actually get what you mean by Soviet gaming. You made a commercial about me. I still don't get what you mean by that. Cheers, Atomic Archive. But yeah, so it's an ABS type of plastic, basically, these have in them, Rajiv. But again, I think the type of plastic they used on cycle helmets that's designed to take a load of shock, but then, crack rather than your skull if there's a really bad impact kind of thing. So yeah, these Port West ones, I might get one on Monday. This other type, because again, although this is a bit of a weird looking hat in terms of shape, I do like the fact that I actually like the one in bright blue rather than the dark blue. But yeah, I do like the idea that like I said, I do like the idea of one where you basically have near total sort of 360 degrees head protection, whatever you want to call it, you know, rather than the ones like this one, like I was saying, because I can take the thing out, like I was saying with this one. The problem with a model like this one is, like I said, if I put that on my head like that, look, you can see how small the actual like protective bit is. Because how these work is you basically just have a cap that's very much like a standard cap, but it's got a rim on them. Let's open the chat again. Yeah, I haven't actually heard of it before, Brayman. But yeah, so I said, like, when you wear it just like this, you could just wear it like a regular cap kind of thing, and then it would just look like a regular cap. But like I was saying, they've got the design where you've got the kind of little folds on the inside, so you can tuck in the this is 70% cotton, 30% nylon, apparently. Plastic toupee, yeah, it's not a toupee. But yeah, like I said, how they work is you basically, yeah, just and get that back in. Again, I've taken these out before. They're not exactly hard to get back in. It's just getting it in so none of it's sort of hanging out from the little bits there. Because again, I think once you've got it in a bit, they push forwards a bit. Yeah, there we go. And then, yeah, that moves forwards like that. So essentially most of it is under there. Again, it's not like a perfect fix. I think they probably do different size. These are the different size outer caps depending on the skull dimensions you specify when buying it. But and then, like I said, this was originally glued in, but this has come loose a long time ago because you know, like I said, it didn't have loads of glue on the back of it. And then, yeah, that just sits as the kind of extra cushioning layer for it. Theoretically, Atomic Archives, I think you could, yeah. But like I was saying, with these, in theory, if there was a cap you really liked, if it was a close enough shape, you could probably get one of these protective layers and just stick them in another cap if you liked another cap. But like I was saying, the thing I like about these is, although they're obviously not as protectors of a proper cycle helmet, crash helmet, riot helmet kind of thing, they're much better than no head protection at all, you know, for a lot of things. And like I said, because they're not really obviously a protective cap, they're the kind of thing I don't think most people would look twice at. But like I said, the original purpose of these are a bit like a bobble hat, which is why bobble hats had bobbles on the top to protect people's heads from banging into ceilings, is the original point with a you know, like one of these caps was for people like plumbers or like gas engineers and people like that, you know, constantly worked under low ceilings and little cupboards and alcoves and stuff like that. So they didn't keep injuring their heads by, you know, ducking in and out of little alcoves and stuff like that. So it's basically designed as if you didn't need a full-on, like, you know, like caving style helmet, kind of, you know, protective helmet, but wanted something, you know, not just, you know, nothing. Again, if I was wearing, is this the one near Japan, where you see all the pictures of people wearing gas masks in the old pictures? I mean, you wouldn't be able to wear a gas mask 24/7 because you need to take him off to like eat and everything like that. I mean, I know in theory you could have like some sort of liquid food through a drinking tube, but nobody's ever going to do that, like for a long-term thing. But if you had to do something like that, you would want a PAPR unit just because of stuff like that with your, you know, like sort of not sweating. So something that will use a PAPR unit. So I'd want a really comfy panoramic mask. And again, actually, I could probably do it with the Forshida F2, just because, like I said, that's the comfiest mask I own. And then you'd want a PAPR attached to it at all times, just so you're not getting sweaty and itchy. Yeah, and again, good luck sleeping with a gas mask on. Also, if you're wearing a gas mask non-stop as well, your throat will completely dry out because you can't, you know, your gas filters completely pull the like moisture out of the air as well. So yeah, I don't actually believe people there wear gas masks 24/7 or it's a properly inhabited island, Because again, when I've seen pictures of the like Japanese island type one, which I think was actually owned by Russia, because all of the pictures are like people with Soviet gear on. Right, I think, like I said, with that, it was more like, it's more just like a PR thing. Like they like taking pictures of the gas masks on there, but it's more like a military type base. Yeah, no worries for the snack suggestions. Yeah, so like I was saying, Atomic Archives, it's one of those things where I think it's an interesting thing, but I don't think it really, you know, like, it's maybe at certain times of the year you need a gas mask on a lot of the time, but I can't imagine people actually live in an environment where you need a gas mask on 24/7 to survive, because that means nobody could have been there prior to gas masks coming about in like 1914 to, you know, like 1920 sort of era. Because I know technically before World War One there were like very primitive gas masks for very specific things, but yeah, I don't honestly believe that you know, somewhere like that would have had you know, been sort of occupied, if that makes sense. But yeah, so like I said, bump cap's good. Like I said, I probably will pick up one of those other bump caps. I might actually order one now. Like I said, I've spent way too much this month. I reckon a lot of it's because I've done more streams talking to you guys. When stuff gets mentioned, I think, oh yeah, I should get one of those to do a video. Yeah, so don't forget to like the stream. So, yeah, I'm assuming this one does have the protective thing in, because the other one showed pictures of it with the... Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is one with the liner in. But, yeah, what's the measurement for this, or is it a general size one? So I can't see anywhere on here where it says what the actual head circumference is of it. Is it saying it's a medium here? Maybe it's a one-size-fits-all one with like a adjustable bit inside, I don't know. If it's 59 as in 59 centimeters, if they've got the measurement right, that'll fit me fine. I'll just buy this one and hope it is actually the size they specify it is. Again, annoyingly, because I keep looking at the chat on this thing there, and it's fucking broken because YouTube only lasted, like I said, 6 minutes or whatever on today's stream before it broke. Yeah, like, there's some pictures of me. There's an old picture of me. I can't remember if it was from a video or just a picture I uploaded to YouTube when I was dog walking a few years ago, and I had, because it was a really bad hay fever, like hay fever season that year, I actually had the Spassiani on for walking the dogs that day. I got a couple of weird looks, but, you know, like I said, it was because of how really high pollen it was. Much more comfortable wearing a gas mask and getting some of the, you know, like spores down, either pollen or whatever, and then, you know, like sneezing and coughing non-stop for an hour. I think, Kyle, that would refer to the filter, because in theory, the rubber isn't going to fall apart if it gets irradiated, seeing as lots of rubbers have irradiation treatment done to them, you know, as like an industrial thing. So if you clean the mask off, the mask itself shouldn't get damaged due to radioactivity at all. It's just simply the filter that would get broken. But bear in mind as well, though, saying that what was I going to say? If a mask is exposed to neutrons, there might be certain metals and things like that in the mask that then become radioactive, but you're never normally exposed to neutrons from fallout. Because if you're exposed to neutrons, I don't think you have to worry about much anymore at all. Well, yeah, like I was saying, Atomic Archives, we don't actually know what the name of that mask is, the one that's NATO threaded, because it is neither a Tao Feng or the other MF Factory one. It's from a different company. Something Plastic Mold Co. was the one that mask I bought was. Again, I keep looking at the bloody chat on my phone and it's broken because... Greyman, how much oxygen or whatever you get in is going to depend on all the filtration stuff and everything like that. Very thin particle filters aren't going to restrict your breathing much at all. So, for example, like I might have said this before, but if you like 3M style masks with the dual filters, if you just have those as particle things, if you had one of the sides blanked off and were just using one 3M filter, you're going to get less air coming through than the standard 40mm mask. But if you have both 3M sort of P3 filters on or whatever, you get more airflow than a 40mm mask. Yeah, but it still depends on what's in it, Greyman, because a ABEC filter is going to restrict your air more than just a particle filter. I'm assuming, Alexi, that's like a brand-specific thing where they did that as their own MSA thing. Because like I said, with a lot of the industrial companies, like 3M has those kind of bayonet filters. A load of other industrial sort of half-face masks have, you know, or full-face masks use their own like unique filter attaching system, whether it be like a different size screw than standard or a different bayonet type system or whatever. So yeah, like I said, the annoying thing with a lot of industrial masks is they can make them to whatever the company wants to do for their own proprietary filters. It's not like you can just get any brand of filter. And they do that on purpose because it means that the company selling them basically has a monopoly on the filters. It's like, you know, the printer cartridges kind of thing. But I think a lot of the time those companies sell the masks quite cheap and then they make their money back through the filters. Yeah, but every filter has charcoal in it, Greyman. That's not just a particulate filter. It's just that you get different levels of what's in it depending on if it's ABEC or whatever. Basically, if it's paper or asbestos or fiberglass or whatever, that's what you have for the particle bit of the filter. You can have filters that are just charcoal with stuff to stop it coming out at either end for a basic vapor filter. Then combination filters have both in, and then you get impregnated charcoal depending on what's in it. So like I said, the filter, how much oxygen or whatever a filter cuts off itself is basically completely down to the size of the filter. Because like a filter like this is obviously going to cut. It's harder to breathe through a filter like this than a filter like this. So again, like I was saying, that's why PAPRs are great. Because if you have a PAPR, it means that you're not struggling to breathe even if you're like doing laboured stuff like, you know, running around or whatever. No, that's all right, Greyman. I'm just sort of saying that's how it works. So, yeah. So that's why, again, like when people kept saying to me the other day, I kept saying, oh, why do you need a PAPR? You're not going to ever need the features of a PAPR. I had people like that in the comments. And I was saying to them, yeah, but you do realise that when you're doing anything physical with a gas mask on, if you have a PAPR on compared to not having a PAPR on, you're going to find it a lot easier to breathe. You know, again, it's why some people that aren't even to gas masks or survival stuff buy gas masks just to exercise in, to, you know, make the exercise harder. You know, like the masochistic people that exercise in that sort of way sometimes do that. But no, I wouldn't know without looking up the exact model, Alexi. But like I said, lots of mask companies do proprietary filters. I've just had a weird thought. Hang on a second. Oh, and I found my West German thing as well. Because these GOST filters have these EO16s have this funny thing at the bottom. They have a GOST thread in the bottom as well, so you can do this with the filters. So there you go. There's your super filter. Although again, you'd want something that would block the asbestos coming out part way up. But yeah, there you go. There's your breathing resistance trainer right there. Yeah, like I say, there's the this is the German PAPR unit I was on about that the Nuclear Family, Steve from the Nuclear Family, gave me for free. So I'm going to shill his eBay page now. He sells PAPRs and stuff like that. The only thing awkward with this one is where the switch is. Oh, better pull that off. But yeah, like I said, this German PAPR is very good. But this is one that's not even one designed for regular infantrymen. This is a wounded, like, soldiers PAPR. So it'd be put on them. Yeah. The red bit is the Polish filter with that one, but yeah, the yellow bit is just a standard Soviet EO16. So yeah, I've pre-filtered out the the pre-filter doesn't have asbestos in, but the secondary bit does. But yeah, the like I said, this PAPR is very good. The only annoying things with these PAPRs is that oh, and this is 3D printed, by the way, this bottom thing. That's the cool thing, is the seller who does these, like I said, Steve from Nuclear Family, makes his own custom little 3D printed things for the battery compartments on these, because these are designed that they can either run on the 12-volt battery or from like a 12-volt vehicle power supply. So what he's done with this is made these really good like battery adapter things that then plug into them. So, like I said, rather than the original battery that so you can unplug that there. See, it's just a 12-volt. So yeah, these things are designed to run off a 12-volt supply. So, like I said, he's made a good little adapter thing for them. So they've got their own little, almost the same matching green color little yeah. And guess what they mined in asbestos? Yeah. Yeah, and maybe importing asbestos costs more than just using it, making your own thing. No, Greyman said loads of times before, don't have World War I masks. Loads of World War II masks. No World War I masks because they're quite expensive and you have to really look after World War I masks, as in keep them in an environment where they're not going to get damaged kind of thing, because World War I masks, you know, if I just had one and put it on display like some of those masks behind me, it would get damaged, and I don't want to damage history like that. So you can't actually convert carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide. I'll catch up with the chat in a minute because hello, dumb sleep. But yeah, you do get carbon monoxide filters, but they're like their kind of own thing. They don't convert carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide. I can't remember how they work, but they're like very limited time chemical things, you know, like where you can technically get a carbon monoxide filter, even if I don't think it's really filtering it. But yeah, they're ones that aren't like a conventional filter, if I remember right, where, you know, like you could open it and, as you know, it slowly breaks down over time, the filter, when exposed to stuff. If I remember right, because I don't actually have any carbon monoxide filters like that, I'm pretty sure those filters are ones that as soon as you open them, like a chemical reaction kind of thing starts taking place. And then after a certain amount of time, the filter just won't work anymore. You know, they're like a much more specialized thing, which again is why with carbon monoxide, just use like, you know, that's why most people who would work with something like that use an air tank or a rebreather. You don't want to really, you know, risk those sort of things where, you know, once it's too late for you kind of thing. But yeah, like I said, so this is a German 40mm NATO PAPR. Like I said, these are very good. These move a lot more air than that Chinese PAPR. When you say, are there rebreathers, what do you mean in what sense? There's loads and loads of Smith & Wesson as in the gun company. But yeah, there's loads of rebreathers. Like I said, I've got a couple of Soviet rebreathers, but I personally wouldn't risk, you know, like using them for anything. Because again, rebreathers have a hell of a lot of risks associated with them as well. This is 2-speed, by the way. That's low. That's high. Yeah, this has a weird thing where the switch is in the middle. It's off. Going left on the switch is battery level 1 and battery level 2. And then if I remember right, going right is like external power source 1, external power source 2, depending on how it's, you know, like rigged up. Because like I said, these are weird where they can connect to different sorts of external power supplies. Because I think one idea with these as well is, like, if you have wounded soldiers, you just plug these into the 12-volt or 24-volt vehicle, like, electric system while, like, you know, the ambulance is transporting the soldiers. Oh, so it does actually turn it into CO2 then. Like, okay, so apologies if I said it didn't, but yeah. Like I said, if I remembered right, they are things that like are very limited in how long they work, like the catalytic. Yeah, IP4, IP5. I've got an IP4M as well. The IP4M is a really cool mask, but no, East Germany didn't make gas masks. All of the East German gas masks are imported. East Germany did make some industrial masks because apparently during the Iran-Iraq war, East Germany donated some masks to their friends in Iran. But what they didn't specify is that these weren't CBRN masks. They were like very, very basic, like industrial masks, as in they dealt with, you know, what do you call it, like very low levels of probably like paint fumes and that kind of industrial masks. So any of the Iranian soldiers wearing them died, basically, because it turns out they didn't do shit against chlorine or anything like that, you know. Because, hello, brother, comrade nation. Here is some gas masks, my fellow comrades. Ha, ha, ha. So, yeah, East Germany didn't make gas masks at all. Actually, they probably made some industrial ones, like I was saying. I'm going to be corrected on this. I'm pretty sure, yeah, because I'm pretty sure I have an East German gas mask. But, yeah, they didn't do any of the Soviet, like, military-style ones. So all of the National Volksarmy kind of people, they all had just, like, Shums and MM1s and everything that were imported, like that MM1 there. They were just imported ones that, you know, they stuck their own satchels on and everything like that. But they didn't make their own. Whereas, like I say, I think East Germany had some industrial masks they made for some like bits of East German industry, but they never made their own gas masks. So any masks you see that were in East German service came from other commie bloc nations that they basically just bought them from the other nations. Because, like, yeah, some like obviously the USSR made a lot of the stuff themselves. The USSR sold licenses to some of the other like Warsaw Pact countries for shit, like, you know, like how Czechoslovakia didn't adopt the AK because they didn't want to pay a production license to the Russians. Same with the Poles. That's the reason the Poles, other than the Shum 41, like the SZ, whatever they call it, their version of Shum 41 with the zinc on it, most of the Polish like military masks and the Czech military masks aren't communist ones. They didn't want to pay the production licenses. But I have a weird feeling some of the Baltic countries that were in the USSR made them. And so I have a feeling East Germany bought like Estonian or something like that, Estonian or Latvian or Lithuanian like masks, and that's why they don't have the Cyrillic alphabet on them. Yeah, so it's getting out of the situation, not lingering in it. Yeah, because that's, again, the other thing, isn't it, which a lot of people don't realise with filters, that it will actually say on a lot of filters that they can only be used in environments where the air oxygen levels or whatever are still above a certain level, or gas concentration is lower than a certain level. Because the problem is with a filter system is if the air is so saturated with certain chemicals, you're still going to suffocate anyway, even if the filter can technically work. Because, again, filter isn't going to provide you with air or oxygen. So that's where rebreathers or like air tank systems are employed, because yeah, if you're in a situation where there's lots of carbon monoxide and not actual proper oxygen, or the air is just so carpeted with like chlorine gas or something, you're not going to be able to breathe anyway. You're still going to suffocate even with the filter on, because apparently some ways people are suffocated as well with gas masks on and filters is if they go into stuff like septic tanks or something where like methane builds up in an enclosed environment. And so I think one of the gas masks I bought, even though it filters methane, like on the filter like thing, it had a specific warning saying like, do not climb into a septic tank with this, you know, on it, will not protect you kind of thing. Because I think that's a common way people die or something in the States if they live in like a rural place and they have their own septic tanks, is when the septic tank's being cleaned now and again. Yeah, I do. I can't remember where I've got that one at the moment, Hype, because recently I bought another Chinese coffee can one, the one that's like the yellow coffee can, the acid gas one. But yeah, it wasn't it like a purplish colour, that one you sent? I can definitely remember you sending it, because I think it was one of the filters I specifically kept, like, I don't want to open this till I actually need it kind of filters. And then it's like done that typical thing where I've probably stashed it in a gas mask satchel with some other filters that are actually good in date ones. to use in an emergency, and now I don't know where they are off the top of my head. So they're completely defeating the point of me using them for emergency. Oh shit, I need to grab my in-date filters because I'm worried about some chemical like leak or something. Oh shit, where did I put it under this mountain of surplus? There are definitely modern rebreathers wrote, but I wouldn't know what to look for them. Like, because obviously industrial companies make them and stuff like that, and I'm sure AliExpress has like modern rebreathers on it. But yeah, I wouldn't know what to search for. When the tunnel Mobics were pictured in the Kursk offensive, like Kursk Russian counter-offensive thing recently, whatever you want to call it, some of the tunnel Mobics had very modern-looking panoramic masks on with a rebreather setup, because you could see like a hose going in and then a hose going out, you know, where they were obviously kind of looping into you know, a system like that. Oh, okay, yeah, so I must have kept it still sealed in the bag. So yeah, I have a weird feeling it might be behind a load of that shit there. Like I had it on the little shelf that was behind there. You can't even see because there's, you know, like the shelf is at that height on there and the stuff's gone up to that height. Because yeah, one thing I dug out where I was looking through that stuff the other day is this. Which I hadn't seen in ages, but yeah, it's here. I ought to put this up somewhere, but yeah. Yeah, because I hadn't seen it in ages, and when I was looking through this, funny enough, that German P8PR unit, I found this. But yeah, that's the problem with this fucking room, is because obviously I don't sleep in this room or anything. It's a room used for playing on the PC, doing these streams essentially. So I like stuff being kind of messy in here, but not that messy, you know. So when people go, oh, can I see something? I can just pick it up and show them. And then I don't have to worry too much about where it gets put back. That's the problem, is it's very easy to lose stuff in this mountain of shit. Again, I looked at the chat then, thinking somebody had repeated a question from earlier, and they haven't. It's because the fucking YouTube chat is awful. But yeah, right. Let me go back to what I was reading. Oh, I saw you'd asked that on a video. Sorry, but I didn't get a chance to answer because it was when I was coming on the stream. Because years ago, and this is like way before COVID, so let's say 2010 sort of time, around then gas masks were really cheap. And because I'm into military surplus in general, like a lot of militaria stuff, the difference was you could often buy a gas mask that was pretty much unused in its satchel with accessories for 20 to 30 pounds, you know, $20 to $30 sort of price. Whereas stuff like deactivated firearms, bayonets, all that sort of stuff were like 10 times the price. So compared to helmets and like firearms and bayonets and, you know, all that sort of stuff, gas masks for at one period of time were like really cheap on the surplus market. You know, they were basically priced the same way as old, you know, like I've got an old like army fleece on at the moment and some army DPM trousers. You know, they used to be in that price range of old army surplus clothing kind of stuff where, you know, it was really cheap. It was kind of like surplus stores would have it in massive bulk because they probably bought the entire bulk of them for not much money at all, you know, and then they could still sell them on to a profit at people at like £5 to £10 for a pair of trousers or like a jacket or whatever. So gas masks used to be in that category of surplus. So that's why I've got so many of them, is because it was just, they were affordable, unlike helmets and things like that. You know, they meant that, you know, for the same amount of money, you could buy like one bayonet or you could buy 5 gas masks. So I got gas masks because it meant I could do more content with them. I'm pretty sure I've seen that channel before. Is he the one that sometimes finds like skeletons and grenades and stuff like that? But I've seen a lot of those channels like that where they dig up unexploded ordnance, and I'm like, I wonder if you're like one mistake away from not making videos anymore. You know, like where they find old rusty World War II shells, and I'm sort of like, yeah, grenades and that. I'm like, yeah, I wonder how fucking stable an old World War II grenade is after it's been rusting in the ground for, you know, like decades. I did see somebody in Ukraine, interestingly, where they were digging trenches in Ukraine. I don't know if it was a Russian that posted this picture or Ukrainian, but where either side was digging like all the trench lines in Ukraine, they found a skeleton that still had an SSH-40 helmet on and a rusted PPSH. But, you know, like where obviously it was a World War II Russian soldier, you know, Soviet soldier that had died, and his helmet was still on the body and he was still holding his PPSH in death. And all the wood and everything had rotted away from the PPSH, but obviously when they excavated this, like they were digging their trench, so there was a skeleton with a rusted helmet on and the metal parts of the PPSH and the drum still in its hands, which was kind of fascinating. So that's a completely different thing, motorhome, I guess, to, yeah, it was just like one of those crazy things that was found in Ukraine. Also, you know when the Russians blew up one of the dams, was it Kharkiv Dam, whichever dam? No, it wasn't Kharkiv. Which dam was it the Russians blew up that I think flooded a load of Kharkiv and, you know, caused like cholera and shit like that to happen? But when that happened, because all the water levels changed, you know, where some stuff had been underwater for decades, there were loads of like barnacle-ridden skeletons with, you know, Kraut helmets on, like M38 and M40 helmets. So they found a load of like, you know, Nazi skeletons as well as like the Russian ones. So again, it's because it's kind of crazy if you think like with places like Ukraine, how many wars have been fought in that sort of bit of Europe over like the hundreds of years, you know, like the Mongol sort of period, you know, and all like the colonial wars and medieval wars, you know, all that sort of period of history up until World War I, World War II. It's amazing to think, you know, how many like times people just kind of dig up a different period of war graves, if you like. I know that now and again people find tanks in like bogs in Eastern Europe because like either communist or like Nazi tanks end up being like, you know, stuck in a bog and abandoned or whatever, you know, like marshlands, and it actually preserved the tanks quite well. So I think I saw a video at one point of like an IS-2 or something being like yanked out of a bog somewhere in like either Russia or like Ukraine or somewhere, and you know, eventually being gunked out, and it still ran because the like marsh water didn't have like anything that was really rusting much of the tank in there, which is kind of fascinating. But yeah. Trying to think of something to say now. My mind's gone blank because we were talking about you know, like old shit pulled out of stuff like that. Yeah, if I lived somewhere like near the coast, I would love to buy a metal detector and go metal detecting. Because you can buy like basic metal detectors, either the Milsurp like Minesweeper ones or you know, like ones from hobbyist stores for not too much money. And metal detecting on like a beach is actually quite cool because you quite often find interesting washed up stuff. But the really annoying thing in the UK is, say I went metal detecting near me, and in a field I dug something up and it turned out to be like an old Saxon thing or an old Roman thing. I think technically you're forced by law. I mean, obviously a lot of people don't, but then it's going to be hard to ever shift them on. You're meant to like have to turn them over, and then you're like normally given like a finder's fee for it. So, you know, the idea is that it gets preserved in the museum, which is good. But it's kind of a bit bullshit that, you know, somebody finds something and then like you barely get anything back for the worth or the value of the thing you find. Because I think there was like a little kid not too long ago that found like a bag of Roman coins or something that were probably worth like hundreds of thousands of pounds or whatever. You know, and they probably went, "Oh, look, here's 100 quid for you," you know, and then shoved them in like a private collection somewhere, you know, of some toff. But fuck's sake, it's like, you know, that. Yeah, the thing, because I live near a canal, I'm always tempted to magnet fish, but I'd have the moral dilemma that if I found a rusty gun somebody had thrown into the canal, I kind of think, let me take that home and clean it and see if I can get it running. So now you'd probably hear of me going to prison because I found the gun magnet fishing and decided to keep it rather than giving it to the cops. Because I've seen like pictures of that where some fully fucking functional Uzis have been thrown in the canal somewhere. And obviously the person did the right thing, and it is the right thing, but, you know, gave them to the police to be destroyed. And, you know, also so they could swab them for fingerprints and DNA, you know, because they might have been involved in a murder or whatever. Are you in a country where you can have one that you can actually shoot, Shutty? Because if so, then yes, definitely. If you're in the UK and buying a DAC one, it's completely up to you if you think that's a valid use of your money. But yeah, I'd be the sort of person that would probably pocket it and then eventually get arrested for it because I'd be like raided or whatever and they find a fully functional, you know, fully auto firearm that I'd pulled out a canal. But rounds for it, yeah. But like I said, that's the problem. So that's why I haven't ever gone magnet fishing, because I bet you I'd find guns and want to keep them. And like I said, if, like you're saying, where you're saying about Bournemouth, if you're in Bournemouth or Weymouth or somewhere, yeah, I bet that'd be really good to metal detect along the beach. But like I said, sadly, being in Oxfordshire, there's probably fuck all near me I could actually take a metal detector and find anything. And then if I could, I wouldn't be allowed to keep it anyway, because it'd be that sort of thing of hand it into you know, a museum and we'll give you a £5 for it. I'll give you a gift voucher for it. They probably do now. Here's your gift voucher for free entry to the museum to see the thing that you handed in to us. Oh, Hype, you know the lights you're on about you gave me the other day? I've got one of those on today, which is why the lighting's better than it was. So on a white screen like this, like we said before, you get better lighting than not having a light on with this on. But then obviously, yeah, having this on makes the lighting much better with this, because at least this has a decent diffuser on this, doesn't it? Where that's a bit diffused anyway with that kind of coating. But yeah, at least with... Oop, I didn't want to make it go that weird green color like I'm in Fallout. Oh, emergency. But yeah. So where you mentioned that the other day, I thought, yeah, I'll get that out, because I knew exactly where they were, those two lights you'd given me, but I didn't have them in this room. So I probably will keep this one here now, because I could just charge it up easily via USB, and then when I'm streaming or whatever, it means I can put a light right next to the phone. Nice thing as well is, like, looking into this one doesn't really blind you because it's quite diffused, whereas like I said, this light is annoying because if it's too close to the camera, it does that kind of distortion onto the lens type thing, this light. And you have to have the angle just right so it doesn't over contrast stuff. So yeah, there we go. 22LR is still one of my favorite cartridges because it's actually practical. Like, as much as people bitch about 22LR in lots of countries, it's like, it's really good for just varmint or vermin or whatever you want to call it, like pest control and just basic marksmanship training. Like, 22LR is still very deadly if a person without body armor gets shot by it. Like, just because it's a small caliber without anywhere near the, you know, like foot-pounds of energy as lots of modern cartridges, doesn't mean it isn't going to penetrate you and fuck up your organs and bones, you know. Yeah, because like I said, Hype, I've got a much better webcam, but annoyingly, if I use my better webcam and that nice microphone you sent me, YouTube won't share the streams as much because they promote doing the streams on a mobile phone in vertical mode now. And like I said, annoyingly as well, the chat only worked 6 minutes on the phone interface before breaking. So if I was streaming only via the phone and couldn't check the chat on the PC, this stream would have had to end after about 6 minutes because the chat broke. Well, yeah, 22 rounds are lethal because, again, they are a bullet. You know, people get killed by air rifles every year in the UK. Only about a dozen people, I think, per year on a bad year. But that is still, you know, because a lead projectile just traveling at 12 foot-pounds, if it hits you in the neck or whatever, can kill you. Or, you know, like gets into your rib cage the right way or goes through your eye into your brain or whatever. But yeah, 22 LR rifle rounds from a regular sort of, like, say, a Ruger 1022, I think are about 100 to 200 foot-pounds, I think, somewhere like that, depending on the round and the length of your barrel. You know, when I say depending on the round, I mean like how much propellant is in it and how lightweight or heavy the projectile is. So you have a muzzle velocity of, let's say, up to 200 foot-pounds or whatever on a 22LR. And yeah, if that hits you in the body, apparently why 22LR is so dangerous is quite often they go into people, but they don't have the energy to cleanly exit them. So a 22LR does the thing where it just bounces around and fragments inside people, whereas a lot of bigger, more powerful rounds make a much cleaner hole through people, which is actually, you know, better for you if you get shot by it, because it's more likely somebody can patch you up if it doesn't hit a vital organ. Whereas if you get hit by a 22LR round or a similar sort of low energy round, they do the thing of bouncing in and out your bones and, fragmenting horribly. That sounds good, Alexi, but like I said, because I'm in the UK, sadly, although you can have 22LRs with the least restrictions on them out of any rifle rounds over here, of like the modern rifle style rounds, you still need a Section 1 firearm certificate for it. What do you mean, like keyholing, Kyle? Like 5.7 rounds do and 5.45 Soviet, where they kind of go head over head. Do I have a cartridge on my desk I can demonstrate what I mean by keyholing? Probably not, but if I get my Fairbairn Sykes out again, that I had yesterday, what I mean by that is that the bullet tip, if you imagine this is the bullet, so rather than going through somebody like that, it goes like that, ignore the handle, like, because it keyholes where it kind of goes skew-whiffy. Well, again, homemade rounds or very soft lead rounds or whatever would do that even more. But yeah, but the point is, yeah, the 22LR is one of those things that's quite notorious for often not cleanly exiting, has enough energy to go through your clothing and go into you, but not to make a clean exit on the outside. So it, So apparently, again, I don't know if this is a FUD law thing or actual true sort of fact, but apparently, like 22LR was one of those rounds as well, the Mafia and CIA and that really like for killing people. Because if you suppress a 22LR, they are genuinely really quiet. Like you can see, videos where people record the decibels of a suppressed 22LR, especially the ones that aren't, like cycled by gas, but, where you have like a bolt action one where you've got a pretty good solid sealed breech. And yeah, a 22 LR, supposedly the reason like the CIA and the Mafia liked it is if you shoot it into somebody's skull, it's going to go in, go through their skull into their brain. And then, yeah, it's not got the energy to go out the rear side of their head. So the bullet, goes bong, bing, bang, bong around in their skull, pretty much guaranteeing a kill. Where, on a rare occasion, if you shot somebody with another caliber through the skull, I guess if you didn't quite get the brain right where you needed to, you can get people shot in the head and survive, or I guess a 22LR is pretty much going to guarantee you don't. I guess they had nothing better to do then. Yeah, so that's my point, Alexi, that I'm pretty sure the reason that both, like, lots of kind of security agency, kind of special, secret agents, if you want to call them like that, as well as the Mafia, is they were very good for wet work. They were very good for cleaning people as efficiently as possible, without alerting many people that you were doing it. Don't see armed police where I am very often, especially because I don't have to go into the city very often near me. Last time I saw armed police regularly in the city was after a certain terror attack, and at that point they put loads of armed police out in places they were worried, they might have copycat terrorist attacks, or, if there were terror cells where they hadn't gotten everybody in them, that they were going to just, go on their, go on like a stabbing or like a driving rampage before, they got caught because the other people in their terror cell had been caught, kind of thing. Oh, Hype, while you're on, I did show this earlier in the stream, but just to show people again who missed the start of it. Right, where did I put that bloody mask I had on at the start of the stream? Where did I put the fucking thing? Oh, there it is. Right. Oh, I actually hung it up properly. So, yeah. And where did I put the filter that I had on the bloody thing as well? Oh, there it is. When I was demonstrating things. So, yeah. Yeah, now I've got the Frankenpoodle. I can put this on. If I can find the thing properly. Yeah, I might have to actually take this off to get the thing lined up, because it's still
not a great port for self-tightening your filters. Alright, no, there we go. So yeah, that seems to be pressurizing alright, but I can get the smelling salts out. And it actually works now. So we've taken 2 ship masks and made a working mask. Because funnily enough, the Pewter's oral nasal cup thing and the, like valves shoved into this other mask actually make an airtight working mask. As opposed to a mask that was shit, that,
Because like I said, the problem with the Pewter was never its valves. The Pewter's actual valve bits worked all right. It was just the fact that like it had those straps that would constantly come off, and the Pewter was made out of that rubber that kind of just caved in on itself. So as soon as you attached a filter to it, it would pull the really sort of flexible rubber away from your face, because the rubber, was like such a soft. It's essentially like a sex toy rubber, I assume, that they made the Pewter out of, not a proper CBRN rubber. But that, because again, this oral nasal cup from the Pewter is a very soft, nice oral nasal cup, but it's not a particularly good one. You can see how there it's already kind of a bit caved in. But that isn't actually, yeah, like I said, I think it's because I assume both this and the Pewter use basically the same face blank. So even though you have a slightly different valve assembly and everything. Is my MF14 still handy behind me somewhere? I can say if the MF14 is handy, I'm kind of interested in the MF14 if it is exactly the same thing, but again, the MF14 might be quite buried at the moment now, because that's the problem, is when I rotate the masks around a bit, the ones that I did have easy access, there it is, I think. Hang on. Right, you sit there and don't fall over. Yeah, right, so what I'm interested in is this the exact same face blank as the MF14? I think it is. Like, looking at the inside of this, it's got, especially now I've put the Pewter's thing inside it, like that bit there, that bit there. I think the Pewter was essentially an MF14 sort of setup there, but without the O-ring bit on it. I need a bigger house, basically, because, again, being in the UK, obviously, where I can't afford my own place or whatever, yeah. In an ideal world, I'd have a nice big house where I could have full-on, like, wall-to-wall shelving with everything lined up by date or, sorted by country. Like, my actual DVDs and that are sorted by alphabetical order and all nice and neat. But the gas masks just have to be shoved, like, in a lot of the other rooms, they're, like, piled neatly in wardrobes or, like, on, shelves or whatever. Problem is, like I said, because this room is the one where I do streams, where people go, oh, can you get this out? And then, ask me to get something else out. Nothing ever stays tidy in here, because I'm constantly, like, pulling and stuff out and putting it away. But yeah, so like I said, I'm pretty sure looking at how the straps and everything. Oh, there goes something else. That was the YouTube badge. I think the MF14 might have a slightly bigger face blank. No, I don't think it, like, visor. No, so I reckon, yeah, this mask, for all intents and purposes, is basically an MF14, just made to a worse standard. The best one for that would be the PMG2. Sorry, the PMG2, because the PMG2 is the one that actually has the little ear holes in it. But yeah, in theory you can, because the Shums has actually thinner bits on the ear. I think the PBF did that as well, where the PBF actually has a bit where your ear is, where they've actually got a thinner bit of rubber with its own kind of, like checkered pattern on it, which I think is designed to let sound vibrate through it a bit easier. But yeah, the PMG, by the look of it, does have, this is the Hungarian, it does have like a little earlobe bit there. But yeah, it's like I said, this is the Hungarian one, not the actual proper, with any of these Chinese masks now that have this strap bit there, I'm just going to put them like that on that, so they stay on that post. But yeah, let me just have a quick look. I will go off in a minute as well, because I've been on 1 hour and 15 minutes and my throat's getting dry.
that works fine. There was some background music playing on my PC, and I can hear that absolutely fine. So yeah, you can use a PNG or gaming or whatever, but looks a bit skewed off. But I think that's because the PBS thing pulls to the side constantly. I think again, like I said, it's because the filter side pulls it down, so the PNG never looks actually square on your face, which is always annoying. But yeah. This isn't anywhere near my scariest mask. I mean, this is the Half-Life 2 Metro Cop mask for the, like, even this one of Shins is the closest to how the Metro Cop mask looks from Half-Life 2. I mean, I know in Half-Life 2's concept art thing, it was literally a PNG in Half-Life 2
concept art for the Metro Cop. Because in the original concept art of the Metro Cop, you can actually see hair sticking out on a shape like this, where it's obviously the weird, was this actually so you could wear a belt through the PMG and have it on your belt or something? I can't ever remember why they did this weird design of the PMG like this. Because again, it didn't catch on with any of the other Soviet masks, but they must have thought, you know, like holding it like a shopping bag or, DJ gas. I'm assuming, it was to either put through a belt loop or put from some sort of thing so you could just easily have the mask on you. But it was one of those weird features that never caught on, because what is literally the point of it, having this thing like this? Like I said before, MG, I think personally one of either the US optical masks or the German optical masks from World War II, especially because one of the US optical masks is one of the ghost people masks they used in Fallout New Vegas, because I guess they looked at those masks and go, yeah, they're pretty nightmare fuel-y. But yeah, so I think most gas masks, again, one of the advantages, going back to that before I go off, is helmet masks in general. Yeah, see ya if you're having a good evening. But helmet masks in general, yeah, have the design where you can wear them with helmets, even though I don't think that's why they're called helmet masks. But you can wear them with helmets and like headgear and all stuff like that, no issue. Because they obviously don't have straps for the most part. They just have like a rubber kind of condom thing that goes over your head. You know, it's like a big swimming cap, basically, how these attach to your head. It means that stuff like helmets and that don't really get in the way, because it's not like there's a brim to the mask or whatever that, you know, will get in the way of a helmet or a, you know, like headset or NVGs or whatever else. They are pretty good design in that way. Anyway, I will go off now because, like I said, I said earlier I was going off and I keep staying on, and my cup of tea will have gone cold by now because I had one sip of it when it was just getting to the right temperature before the stream, and now it's an hour and 20 minutes later. So yeah, bad with YouTube as usual that the stream chat is completely broken on the phone. So if I was doing this via my phone without a PC handy, this stream wouldn't have even worked. Don't forget to like the stream on your way out, because like I said, if people like the videos, it might mean YouTube shares them a bit more. You know, they still probably won't share them reliably. You'll still probably get clickbait in your feeds that you don't want to see. You know, an AI slop shorts or whatever. But if you like this, you know, you'll get suggested these type of videos more often. Anyway, yeah, have a good evening, everybody. And I'm at work as usual at the weekend, so I won't be uploading any like streams or videos during the weekend, because obviously, like I said, I'll be at work, and by the time I get home from work at the weekend, I'm really bloody tired and have to get up early the next day for work again. So I normally come home, you know, have a shower, have a bit of food, and go to bed quite early. Anyway, I will see you all on Monday or whenever.